Hi everyone, welcome to my channel and thank you for showing up. My name is Lyric and today I'm going to do the mid-year freakout tag. I have not been tagged by anyone, I just decided that I wanted to do this. And also it's not quite mid-year anymore, but anyway, I've read at this point about 101 books on Goodreads. I'll put up my actual total there. And it's been a year. For one, I mean, this has been the longest year in the history of ever. So much has happened that it feels like the things that I read in January were actually 5 years ago. So I think this will be a good challenge to kind of jog my memory and see where I'm at so far and where I plan to go. So without further ado, let's go into question number 1. So the first question is, what was the best book that you've read this year so far? And my favorite has been Six of Crows. I'm actually lending it to a friend right now, and he's supposed to be reading it soon, so I can have someone to gush with. But I'm a little late to the game. A lot of people have already found out about Leigh Bardugo, but she is new to me, and Six of Crows was fantastic. Everything from the characterizations to the relationships, oh my god. Just by far it is now the book of which I rate other books against, and I am very thankful for that. I'm trying not to say too much because I do want to talk about it in a later video, and I also don't want to spoil it to my friend who I hope is watching. So next question. So question number 2 is, what was your favorite sequel so far this year? So of course, with talking about Six of Crows, Crooked Kingdom. Now I don't know if this tag is supposed to be like sequels that came out this year, but that's not how I'm going to do it. So Crooked Kingdom is a sequel to Six of Crows, and it is just as good and fantastic and fun as Six of Crows. Well, maybe not as fun. If you know, you know. But it's by far still one of my best, my favorite books. I feel like it'd be huge, but I feel like if it was one book, it would be my favorite book of all time. But to have such a solid duology is fantastic, and it's gorgeous, and I will be referring to it later on again in this video. So I actually have 2 answers to this. I also finished the Diviner series. So I read Diviners last year around Halloween, and then I finished the rest of it early this year. So why didn't anyone tell me not to read this in the beginning of quarantine? Because holy hell, that was a bad idea. But I think reading it while I was isolated and with everything, the division going on in the US and also disease, it was a perfect time to read the Diviners and really like soak everything in that it had to say. And this in particular, Lay of Dreams, I read it the very February, not like the very beginning of the year, and through the beginning of quarantine, and just wow. Maybe it was the timing, but this definitely was one of the best sequels to have read now. So in the whole series, honestly, but specifically Lay of Dreams really really got to me. And so the third question is, what's a new release that you haven't yet got to yet but you're excited for? And the only one that I have physically is One to Watch, which I got from the book of the month, and I've heard nothing but good things. It's no reason I haven't read it yet, other than that my TBR is 50 million yards long. But I definitely want to read this one and hopefully get to it by the end of the year. The other 2 that I have, which, because I'm a little late, Cinderella Is Not Dead, it actually just came out, and I'm so excited for that one. I was really jealous of the people that got ARCs. So One to Watch, Cinderella Is Dead or Cinderella Is Not Dead? Fake fan. Cinderella Is Dead. Also, I was really excited for the Ballads of Songbird, the new Hunger Games, but I'm not really that excited anymore. It's not that pressing, but I did want to include that since that was something that I was interested in. And there's also a graphic novel called Snotgirl, and volume 3 came out, which my friend that's borrowing Six of Crows has and is going to be letting me borrow it, so I will read that one for sure. But those are the ones that I most anticipated but haven't gotten to yet. I'm also excited for a book called Well Played, which I think is the sequel, or at least spiritual sequel, to Well Met by Jen DeLuca. That one is going to come out September 22nd, so I'm thinking about getting it as a early birthday present for myself, because my birthday is September 24th, and I'm just really excited. If it's any bit as fun as Well Played, like or Well Met, I just keep adding my own titles, it's gonna be a good read. I'm also looking forward to How the King of Elfhame Learned to Tell Stories, which I did not know was coming out, and someone on Bookstagram like commented, I was talking about Holly Black, and they were like, hey, are you excited for this? And I was like, what? Now I am. So that's going to come out, let's see, November 24th. That's by Holly Black, and I'm very excited. I thought we were done, but I'm glad that there's going to be more content. Okay, now we're getting into a little bit of a juicy question, which is number 5. What was your biggest disappointment? So I'm going to go ahead and say a book and then a genre that's really been like making me sad lately. So the book was Permanent Record. I was really excited for it because, one, it was beautiful, and I actually really liked Emergency Contact, and I thought, you know, this has got to be just as good, and I did not have fun reading it at all. I feel like Somewhere Only We Know came out this was it this year? Yeah, this year or last year, and I read that one. I thought it, well, also I didn't feel like it was as good as her other books. I felt like it did what Permanent Record was trying to do, but better, and I did not have fun. And after, like, I literally like kept going back and forth, like, do I want to DNF this? Do I want to get rid of it? Because the cover was so pretty. So don't judge a book by its cover, but definitely I do anyway. The genre that's been disappointing me, it's thrillers. I really do love thrillers. So it used to be like one of my favorite genres, but lately I'm just not feeling it. I read one recently that kind of the guest list that I thought was pretty good, but for the most part I've not been thrilled, and I have not been thrilled. But some of the ones that I read this year that I was not really happy about were No Exit, The Silent Patient, and The Wife Between Us, and You Are Not Alone. I wanted to like all of those so bad, and I didn't like them at all. So definitely disappointed, just because it's a genre that I really do like, and maybe it's because I've read so many that I'm just not like having a good time, or maybe it's because it's been a while. I don't know, but please, if you have some thriller recommendations for something that you really love. I'm following Books and Lala's book club, the Literally Dead Club, which is why I read the guest list, but it's also why I read You Are Not Alone. So but hopefully something, you know, now we're on an uptick maybe. So on the flip side, the next question is, what was your biggest surprise read for 2020? I think I said 19 earlier. Who knows what year it is. My biggest surprise was actually Ninth House, which ironically was one of the first books that I read for the year. One, because, so I got it because I knew everyone liked Leigh Bardugo, and I had never read from her before. And so when I saw it on Book of the Month, I was like, okay, yeah, cool, like everyone loves her. But then people were like, please take that off, because it was on YA, and it's not a YA book by any stretch of the imagination. And then there's a lot of content in here that's pretty dark, and a lot of trigger warnings. So I think there's just a lot of conversation around it, and I was like, oh god, like, why am I starting with this book? And then I read it, and for like the first like 100 or so pages, I was trying my hardest to read it. I was so bored. But once I got past that little hump, oh my god, like, I actually really enjoyed this, and I'm excited that we're getting a sequel. And I definitely think, like, go into it knowing what the triggers are, because some of it is honestly kind of hard to read. But if you are fine with that and you enjoy Leigh Bardugo, this is definitely different. But for this one to be my first Leigh Bardugo ever, I really liked it, and I really like Darlington, and I hope that we get to see him more in the sequel. And that, like I said, it was surprising just because I got it and I was like, oh, this will be good. And then and sorry if you saw that wiggle, my dog decided to move my camera, but but after everyone was like saying all that bad stuff, I was like, oh, maybe this wasn't the best way to start. And no, it was great. So like I had a genre for my biggest disappointments, I also have a genre for my biggest surprise. Speaking of, I like unhauled all of those books that I mentioned for my disappointment, but thankfully I have all of my romance books. So romance has surprised me, specifically adult romance, because I never thought that I would enjoy these. So in my hand I have some examples for books that surprised me, which I'm going to go through really fast and not explain at all. So I have The Hating Game, Well Met, which I mentioned a minute ago, Conventionally Yours, which out of all of these is the one I read most recently, The Kiss Quotient, and The Bride Test. These two are by the same author, and they're both very good. So I just always found myself to be like a fantasy person, fantasy and YA, so to venture so like far left, to me at least, and do like adult romance was just kind of, and enjoy like pretty much everything minus one book that I've read in the romance category so far. I've given at least like 4 to 5 stars. So maybe I'm growing up, she said with this hairdo. Who knows, but I've just really enjoyed it, and I think part of it is not knowing that there was so much smut, and I'm like, okay. Interesting. So the next question is, what is a new favorite author who is either new to you or a debut author? Both of mine are actually new to me. They're not new to like the book scene, but that's going to be, once again, Leigh Bardugo, if you haven't picked up on this. After I read Ninth House, I read Grishaverse, then I read Six of Crows, Crooked Kingdom, and then I am still kind of in the middle, if I'm honest, of The King of Scars. Just because I felt it was a little bit slower after reading Six of Crows, but it's still good, and I kind of also spoiled it for myself, so that's why I'm in no rush now. But Leigh Bardugo and Holly Black. For Holly Black, I obviously started with The Cruel Prince, and then I started reading her Fae like short stories, and now I want to read everything she's written, and I want to read more like Fae tales from her. I hope that she sticks with that, which I'm sure she will. But no, I've had a lot of fun, and I will be referencing this book in a different question. I don't know why I said that so weird. So going back to The Cruel Prince, the next book is your new fictional crush. Now, you know that a couple has nailed it when you have a crush on both of them. So Jude and Carden, which I hope it's not a spoiler, like I don't think it is, but I love these scenes. I sent a bunch of fan art of this book to my friend who hasn't read it and probably never will, and just like gush over it, and he's like, yay for you. But I love them. I love the relationship, the chemistry. I'm a huge, I know it's a tired trope. I know it's a tired trope, but give me hate to love all day. And I love it. And just Jude is so smart and Carden is so dumb. And that kind of like chemistry, he tries to be tricky and he's horrible at it. It just fills my heart with glee. And I just love them both. Carden sounds so cute and Jude is so headstrong, and I just I really enjoyed them, their relationship, and them individually, and the fan art is great. So the next question is your new favorite character, and I almost put him in the crush category, but then I was like, no, because I don't ship him with me, I ship him within the universe. But anyway, that's Kaz Krew. Once again, my friend is borrowing Six of Crows, or I would have held that one up, but I'm not coming for Cindy's wig at all. But Kaz is a great character on so many levels. One, of course, he's someone that you can kind of have fun through and reading about, but also the complexities of his character and his relationships, that's why I picked him, even though I could have picked literally anyone from this cast of characters. Six of Crows is so good, guys. So like, if you haven't read it by now, read it, please. Do yourself a favor. But Kaz specifically, he's harsh, but he's young, and I just love it so much. Why didn't I read this like earlier? I don't know, like the duology, I don't know, but I just keep thinking about Kaz, and I'm literally not saying anything, so I'm just gonna put it down and go to the next question. Just I don't want to spoil anything, but Lee Rodrigo is also very funny and rude on Twitter with how she handles people telling her that her book made you devastated, which I admire. And I don't feel like enough people are talking about that scene in this one. All I'm gonna say. We're moving on. Oh, actually, there is one more book. I don't have it with me because I actually unhauled it. And I didn't unhaul it because it was bad. I unhauled it because it devastated me. And I knew it would be a really long time until I was able to read it again. And I wanted someone to be able to have the chance to read it and, you know, indulge in that story, so it's not just sitting on my shelf until I feel ready to read it again. And that's The Female of the Species. The Female of the Species is different than those books in that it hit on a whole different level, whereas the whole book is kind of serious. The whole book, and then nope, you go back in my eyeballs. the whole book, just find your trigger warnings. It does deal with a lot of sexual assault in a new and different kind of way, I feel, but if you're okay with reading that content, I think it's definitely worth the read. And it's not as heavy, I feel. Well, it is heavy, but it's also a fun book, and it it's just different and weird. But yeah, that one also wrecked me to where afterwards, like, I couldn't read anything else for a little bit because I was so like, oh, my dog's coming over here to make me feel better. But yeah, so those books made me cry a lot. On the flip side, books that made me happy. So I tried to, there are a lot of books that made me happy, but they also had, you know, it was a roller coaster of emotions. So I tried to think of books that just like made me smile. So the like #1 answer for me for this question is Fortunately the Milk. Now I'm moving, so this book is actually packed right now, but that book is just, it's a fun like children's book, but it reminded me of my grandfather, who used to tell stories just like that. It's kind of like a kiddie version of Big Fish, and it just brought a lot of memories back of him and how he would tell stories, and it's fun. If you have anyone in your life that tells big tales, then it's definitely worth just like the little sweet nostalgia trip. I also wanted to include some romances. Now, a lot of these romances, or all the ones that I showed you already, I really did like, but these three these three specifically made me just happy. So The Hating Game by Sally Thorne is, to me, hilarious and petty, and just it was fun. I read it literally in one night and just had a ball the whole time. It's nothing too heavy, and it's just sweet and silly at times. The next book is Well Met, once again, and honestly, in the same vein, the other one I was going to say, Conventionally Yours. I am a huge geek in a lot of different ways. I do theater and role play and cosplay and all that stuff, so books that talk about that. This one takes place at a Renaissance fair, and this one at a gaming convention, well, road trip and then a gaming convention, tabletop cards. I just thought that was really fun. Both of them made me think about playing Dungeons and Dragons and dressing up and all the other geekery that I'm into, and to have that paired with like such sweet stories. This one is also LGBTQ plus and very well done, actually. There's a lot of different spectrum in this book. It was just a fun getaway that also reminded me of things that I actually really enjoy. And they made me happy, and they didn't make me cry and question life, which is great. So the next question I kind of have a little bit of a cop-out answer for. It's a book to movie adaptation, which I'm really behind on movies that I want to watch. So I've not watched any of the adaptations, 5 Feet Apart, anything like that. There's a lot that I want to watch, but I just haven't gotten to yet for one reason or another. I still haven't watched the Wrinkle in Time movie. That's one of my favorite books ever. So I wanted to say about two series that got released or announced that they will be made for Netflix specifically, which Netflix, make a Diviner series. I think it'd be great. 4 parts, do it. 4 seasons. Anyway, but that is the selection, which I am currently reading. I'm not that far into, but I'm still having a lot of fun. And just because, like, I think like the concept is interesting enough that I'd be really willing to see how they would do it. And then, of course, we got the announcement that the Grisa Trilogy is going to be adapted. Obviously, everyone's hoping that, you know, it carries on and we see a lot more of Nikolai and the whole Kaz Krew. But I'm really excited for that one. And they announced the cast and everything, and I'm like, now would be great. Kind of winding down, but the next question is your most beautiful book that you bought. Now, I love book covers, so this could have been like a whole book tour, but I settled with 2 that I bought fairly recently. I got Full Disclosure from my book of the month, and I just love the blues in this and the hues and just the moonlight, you know, reflection on, well, it looks to me like moonlight reflection on her skin. Like, everything about this is gorgeous to me. I don't know why, but I'm like obsessed with this cover. And then the next one would be Strange the Dreamer, which just is breathtakingly gorgeous to me. I have seen different covers for this too, and they're all equally beautiful. So neither of these have I read. They're both fairly recent purchases. So still like they're both fairly recent purchases. So I'm hoping that, you know, they're just as good on the inside as they are on the outside. That's always the hope. Alright, so we are finally at the last question, which I'm kind of revealing with my mess of a pile behind me. But it's 6 books that you want to read before the year is over. So I have different reasonings for all of these, so I'm going to try to get through them quick. But the first one is Daisy Jones and the Six. I read Evelyn Hugo and The Seventh Husband of Evelyn Hugo earlier this year, and I was pleasantly surprised because I'm not usually into historical fiction, honestly, unless it's just a really good one, and I really liked it, and I like the writing style, so it kind of made me feel a bit more confident to want to read Daisy Jones and the Six, which I've been putting off because so many people really liked it, and that always kind of scares me a little bit, because I feel like if I don't like it, like, what's wrong, you know? But I want to read this by the end of the year. I want to know what the hype is about. I'm tired of putting it off. And because I did just recently read this, 7 Husbands, I feel like maybe it's time, you know? Let's figure out if I like what everyone else likes. So, the next book is actually a reread that I want to do, and this is Inkheart. I've been talking about Inkheart a lot to just people in my life, and just praising it and praising it and praising it, all off the memory of when I read this in like middle school. My dog, y'all. So I do want to reread Inkheart. I want to know if it's just as good as I remember. I want to definitely reread the book before I go back and read the I want to definitely reread the book before I go back and watch the movie again. And I actually had never read the whole series, so I need to reread this so I can read the series, see if, you know, this is as good as I remember, if it puts me right back in those feelings, and then I can keep telling people to read it and actually feel like, you know, I know what I'm talking about. So after that, I have The Toll. So I read Scythe and Thunderhead both this year, earlier this year, or either late last year or early this year, I don't remember. And I got The Toll immediately and then didn't read it. I was super excited, and then I put it off because I was excited, and I was like, you know, let me, you know, not rush a good thing. And then when I finally started, I was like so out of like the mindset of that world, because I had read a bunch of YAs right before I finally settled down and get the toll. And then I just was like, huh, what are we doing? Who are these people? Couldn't remember anything. I don't want to go back and reread everything, so I just put it off. But I want to read it by the end of the year. I don't want to completely forget everything. At least now I can read a synopsis of the two and kind of like be like, oh, okay, yeah, I'm filling the blanks. Whereas I feel like if I wait any longer, I'm just gonna completely forget and everything. But I feel like I also heard that this one was a little bit of a letdown, and that doesn't make me want to finish the series, but especially when it's so big. But I want to read this by the end of the year. I am putting that out there. Don't look at my nails. And let's try this, right? It's a bit late in the game to tell y'all not to look at my nails, but whatever. The fourth book is actually The Ghost of Harvard, which I got an ARC of and then unfortunately didn't read. So I got an ARC of this from Goodreads actually, and I was really excited, but it came, you know, obviously it was a contest that I won in the middle of quarantine, and I just was wanting to read like very light, like fast kind of things at that point when this came in, and just didn't read it. And then it came out, and then I felt bad because I hadn't read it, but I need to read it before the end of the year, you know, give it a review and be done. I just, at the time, like I said, I felt like I was like, I don't want to read anything like heavy. That's kind of why I got really into romance, and that actually goes into the next and the last two books. So these are two books that I had been putting off because I knew that they were good. Everyone says they're really good, but with the way that everything is, I kind of have been using reading as my escape, but I don't think that's any excuse. I feel like I need to read these books. I need to, you know, see that part of the question, and, you know, just think about it. I don't know how to, you know, say this very eloquently, but you know, I live in the US. I live in the South, and there's a lot of stuff on the news and a lot of things that are really scary, and so I've kind of been using books to get away from that, but I still think that's really important to read books that kind of have a similar topic to what we're experiencing right now. That being said, they're both Angie Thomas. Angie Thomas is extremely popular, and she's also very vocal on Twitter, and, you know, I agree with a lot of the things that she stands for and what she says. So why have I not read this? I need to read these by the end of the year, preferably by the end of this month. So I have The Hate You Give, and that was backwards, and On the Come Up, both by Angie Thomas. Both books that I have been putting off because I didn't want to read anything too serious or too close to home, but I definitely feel like, you know, now's the time, if any. You know, it's not the time to be ignorant or run away from hard topics. It's the time to look things head on at yourself and what you do and the people around you and the people that you love, and have those kind of hard discussions. And if I'm doing that in my day-to-day life, why can't I do that in, you know, my reading? So on that note, that is my mid-year freakout tag. I'm above what I'd set my goal to be for my Goodreads goal. I wanted to read 75. Now I kind of want to double that, but more so I just want to take this time and read. I am not working. I am in the middle of a move, but other than that, you know, I've not had this much time in a really long time, thus filming videos. So why not read as much as I can, and across as many genres as I can, and knock out as many things as I want. So yeah, these are the 6 that I am most pressed to read, but my TBR is endless, and I'm sure so is yours. If any of these books are ones that you're interested in or want me to talk about more, let me know down below. I think most of them, for the most part, are pretty popular, except maybe unfortunately the milk one. But let's have a discussion. Let me know what you think about Kaz, if you can actually speak about how you feel about Six of Crows, or if you're as no thoughts as I am. So with that in mind, thank you guys, stay safe, thanks for watching this video, and have a good day.